Nostalgia. I am a very nostalgic person. My generation is a very nostalgic generation. However, I think nostalgia is actually hurting Hollywood and most media in general. A lot of us complain that all Hollywood does is rehash old ideas. Everything seems to be a reboot, a remake, or a sequel. Yet, as soon as Hollywood rehashes an old idea, I see people all over my Facebook being like, yes, I can't wait. And I'm not a jerk. When I see people doing that, I don't say anything. I'm not here to harsh someone else's buzz. If they're excited for it, they're excited for it. But all I can do is sit from afar and think, why? Especially with comedies. To me, for a comedy, you have a 10-year window to make a sequel. If you don't make it in that 10-year window, it's not going to be any good. Look at Dumb and Dumber. Look at Anchorman. Look at Zoolander. All those movies waited 10 years or more for their sequel, and all their sequels flopped or were panned for a very good reason. Yet, despite seeing this happen, I guarantee if they announced a Talladega Nights 2 tomorrow or a Dodgeball 2 tomorrow, everyone I know would lose their collective minds. Simply put, you can't always make lightning strike twice. I'll give you an example. Do you remember Girl Meets World? It was the reboot of Boy Meets World about Corey and Topanga's daughter. Now, Boy Meets World was a fantastic show. But part of Boy Meets World's charm is it's Corey and Topanga falling in love in the 90s. The show takes place in the 90s. Believe it or not, the 90s are a character in that show. That's part of the charm. So of course, Girl Meets World only lasted 3 seasons because it lacked a certain je ne sais quoi. You can't make it the 90s again. Sure, you can set a show in the 90s, like Fresh Off the Boat, but certain shows work because they were for that generation, by that generation. Look no further than Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead is one of my all-time favorite shows. I adore it, I still quote it till this day. But despite how excited everyone was for that reboot, the 2011 reboot tanked. Because the premise of the show is 2 Generation X kids watching MTV videos. Those old episodes are still hilarious and they're still awesome because it captures that time period. To see it done in 2011 just feels weird and dated. Because I've seen it put in practice so many times and I've seen it fail so many times, I don't even get excited when I hear they're remaking these shows anymore because it's been proven it's not always a good call. It rarely is. Once again, though, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because they're remaking Lizzie McGuire. And of course, my social media lost its collective mind when it was announced. Listen, I grew up watching Lizzie McGuire. Don't give me that look. That show ripped. Listen, if you were born in the early to mid 90s, I guarantee you wrote in someone's yearbook, "You rock. Don't ever change." Don't act like you're too good for Lizzie McGuire. Get over yourself. Whether you watched Lizzie McGuire or whether you pretended not to watch Lizzie McGuire, what made that show great is it was a coming-of-age show. It was Lizzie, Gordo, and Miranda learning lessons through trial and error of being preteens and teens. It was cool to watch them grow, watch them learn, and watch them coming of age. But now they've come of age. I don't need to see it. It's over. I don't want to see Lizzie with kids and a mortgage and a job. I don't want to see Ethan Kraft with his hair falling out and being 40 pounds overweight. I don't want to see Gordo have clinical depression. I don't want to see all these characters living adult lives in the 2020s. That's what I'm doing right now. I'd much rather escape and watch an old rerun of Lizzie McGuire and remember the early 2000s when I was the same age as these characters. It would be cool as like a one-off hour-and-a-half movie, but I don't need multiple seasons of adult Lizzie McGuire. It just wouldn't be good. Remember All Grown Up? Like when that first dropped, we were like, no way, the Rugrats as teenagers? This is friggin' cool. Then after about a season, we were like, yeah, can you make them babies again? And this is something that took me a long while to accept, even for one of my favorite shows. One of my all-time favorite shows is Undergrads. For years, I wanted this show to come back. I would sign all the petitions. I would beg. I would hope. Bring back Undergrads. But so much of Undergrad's humor, so much of Undergrad's character, so much of Undergrad's is the fact it was the early 2000s. All the celebrity references, all the games they play, the constant jokes about the Phantom Menace. Hell, the music, the theme song was sung by Good Charlotte. And after 19 years, I've accepted the ship has sailed on Undergrads. I love the show. I will always love that show. But it's missed its window, and it would be nowhere near as good if they made it in 2020 or 2021 or even 2022. It just wouldn't work, being honest. And feel free to disagree with me. I know many do. All these things wouldn't be making money or making a comeback if people didn't like these things. There's many exceptions to the rule as well. Mad Max Fury Road was an awesome movie. Cobra Kai is a very good show. I think we can all agree that the reboots, the remakes, and the sequels are a little excessive, though. So maybe if we take our nostalgia goggles off for 3 seconds, we might get some really fresh, new, enticing ideas in Hollywood and television for once.